It's 1 o'clock, time for the Joy Business Report. Coming up, rising inflation will not subside without further monetary policy tightening by the Bank of Ghana. We have details from IC Research. And return to fiscal discipline or responsibility law now to save the Bank of Ghana. That is a call on government from the director of the Institute for Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Quartey. Also in this bulletin, World Bank expected to complete review of government flagship programs by the end of next month, a move expected to impact on revised expenditure targets for the year. We have details of these and many more shortly. Grateful you could stay with us. Let's now settle for the details. The director for the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Quartey, is appealing to government to return to the implementation of the Fiscal Responsibility Law. According to ISE, the law which restricts government from borrowing more than 5% of the previous year's revenue to GDP was passed to ensure fiscal discipline. Speaking at a press briefing to review the media budget, Professor Quartey urged the governor of the Bank of Ghana to be firm and not breach the law when lending to government.
The Fiscal Responsibility Act has to be revisited. That's the point we're making, that yes, it has to be there. Then the Bank of Ghana itself had an act. It cannot lend more than 5% of its previous year's revenue to government. That would have to be respected strictly. And I believe with these two, we are good to go. This issue of government having to fall on the central bank to finance this deficit, about 80% will be kept if we implement this strategy.
Also responding to the assertion that the economy has turned around the corner, Professor Quartey argued there is more to be done to begin the recovery process. And more on the economy, without a further monetary policy tightening by the Bank of Ghana, the rising inflation will not subside. According to research firm IC Research, the Monetary Policy Committee baseline forecasts show a slightly higher elevated profile in the year ahead. There is more in this report.
It said the upside risk could become embedded in underlying inflationary pressures if not contained with further policy tweaks. The recent inflation expectation survey by the Bank of Ghana indicated that business expectations of inflation remain flat at an elevated level. IC Research believes the unchanged inflation expectations reflect the favorable impact of the 4 consecutive months of decline, which was offset by the supply side and tax-induced inflation upticks in the past 2 months. It added that the renewed spike in crude oil prices on the global market, with Brent crude reaching $85, could revive non-food inflation with higher utility tariffs under the baseline. Essentially, the inflation monster has only been dazed by the ongoing fiscal and monetary tightening, but will not be finished off without further policy tightening.
A Business Desk report. Now, the World Bank is expected to complete review of government's flagship projects by the end of next month. The move is part of ongoing support from the country's development partners to help reduce government's rising expenditure. Some of the projects being covered under this review is the Free SHS initiative and the school feeding program. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta disclosed this on GTV's Current Affairs program, Talking Point.
For us then to take action as to efficiencies and leakages that we must do. I don't think anybody is committed to keeping expenditures high. We need to constantly drive towards those efficiencies and, more importantly, also increasing revenues. Because if you look at our current budget, I think we are adjusting by almost 3.8% in this first year, and that is huge by any standard. So that we move to minus 0.5% for the primary balance. So there's rigor in what we are doing. We expect that by the time we get these assessments and analysis, we'll be even more surgical in the things we do. I think most of the clamor has been reduce the number of ministries, etc. And what can be tangibly seen, Doc, would be that 3 or 4 ministers may not be there, but the 650,000 civil servants will not change.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta speaking on GTV's current affairs program Talking Point. To some other stories, energy strategist Dr. Yusuf Suleimana is urging the government to come out with plans to address Ghana's fluctuating fuel prices. According to him, government needs to find a lasting solution to the problem to reduce its impact on general inflation.
I seem to see that we are living in what we call a strategic vacuum. We lack a very concerted strategy to be able to tackle this perennial boom and bust or oil cycle fluctuations. In most jurisdictions, what they do is, if you have an upstream and your downstream industry, if you make concerted effort to be able to link up the two. When I say link up the two, you have to have a workable formula so that whenever the upstream is booming, bear in mind that your downstream will struggle. And if you don't have that kind of workable formula, where you can cascade some benefit from the upstream to the downstream and then the vice versa, you will always complain when oil prices rise, and you will equally complain when oil prices drop. And that's what is happening.
Now, the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization has called on academia to inculcate the use of emerging technology in the teaching and learning process. Deputy Minister of Communications, Amma Pomah, made the statement on behalf of the sector minister. She spoke at the launch of the National ICT Week, which is spearheaded by the National Information Technology Agency.
These workshops will provide practical training in areas such as coding, digital marketing and entrepreneurship, equipping our youth with the necessary tools to compete in the global digital landscape. As we embark on this journey, we must also recognize the importance of a secure and trusted digital environment. Cybersecurity is paramount in safeguarding our digital assets and ensuring that our citizens' personal information remains protected.
Amma Pomah is the Deputy Minister for Communications and Digitalization. Moving on to some other stories, the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry has pledged its commitment to deepen collaboration with the Multimedia Group Limited to help in articulating issues of national interest. According to the Chamber, the partnership has become critical to the growth and development of the economy. Speaking to Joy Business after leadership of the Chamber paid a working visit to management of Multimedia Group Limited, President of the Chamber, Clement Seamwaku, said his outfit will be signing an MOU with Multimedia, which will focus on advocacy, entrepreneurship, and policy direction to help accelerate economic growth.
The business enclave have some difficulties that we are encountering. After the DDEP, businesses are not doing well. Even prior to that, we had COVID and all other things that the government have put in place to streamline, the economy. And sometimes they have good intention to do them, but it might not be as they wanted it. And it's us to come together and look at the press to re-echo some of the things that we think that they have to look again to help their direction to be able to succeed as a nation. And today we had the opportunity to meet Multimedia, and the discussion that we had is so fruitful that can advance the cause of our work.
President of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Clement Seamwaku there. You're still listening to the Joy Business Report with me, Pius Kojo Baka. For your pension tip on Money Lab, let's now hear from Kofi Poli, Chief Operations Officer of People's Pensions Trust, as he explains some benefits of Provident Fund schemes for employers.
Hello and welcome to Money Lab. My name is Kofi Poli, Chief Operations Officer of People's Pension Trust. We continue our pension tidbits and we focus on Provident Fund schemes. Now, Provident Fund schemes are what technically we call employer-employee assisted schemes. The advantage here for the employer is that it allows the employer to retain good staff, because with the rules of engagement, it can be that you must stay with the employer after a certain period before you can have access to these funds. If you are able to meet that threshold, then you can take your money, employer will also keep his funds. Thank you very much for today's episode and hope to see you next time.
And that's it for the Joy Business Report.